Hello, everybody. My name is Jeremy Miller, and I'm here with the creator and founder of Conscious Recovery, TJ Woodward. TJ, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
I'd love to start by letting the treatment providers know the benefits of becoming a Conscious Recovery authorized program.
Thank you. I actually want to start first with what the issues are of what it takes to run a treatment facility. I've had the honor of working in the addiction treatment field for a couple of decades, and I've noticed a few fundamental issues. One, it just feels like there's never enough time. That's one. The second one is high staff turnover. Now, how does this relate to the curriculum? Great clinicians bring their expertise, they create this amazing group curriculum, and then they leave, and the clinical director, the executive director have that now what moment. Now what do we do? And then they're kind of scrambling to look for the next expert. So what Conscious Recovery provides is a very, very simple and detailed framework that will help have continuity of care. It's a full system of care. It's much more than a curriculum. It's much more than a book or a workbook. It's a full system of care. Yes, it's 12 weeks of residential curriculum. Yes, it's 12 weeks of outpatient curriculum. And yes, it's an online training full system, but it's really much more than that. It is a philosophy and it's a way of being with clients. And what I love about it is twofold. One, what we already talked about, continuity of care. Great clinician leaves and you still run Conscious Recovery. There's still a very, very nice thread with that. And the second thing is I've worked with some of the most phenomenal therapists, and come group time, I've noticed their anxiety spike. This provides very safe container to help clinicians bring themselves into the room without having to constantly create group curriculum.
I love that. And I think that from the experience we've had in training clinicians, usually it's a huge relief that they don't need to scramble before every group to come up with what they're actually going to do in group 5 minutes from now. And I think another really important piece that I'd love to hear your feedback on is what it means for a treatment program and the experience we've had in terms of length of stay for the clients.
Well, we've seen all kinds of wonderful outcomes. Length of stay increased approval from insurance companies. We've seen long-term outcomes, but I also want to speak to another piece that I think is really, really important and maybe even more important, and that is staff morale. Conscious Recovery has created a way to be with clients where people can actually be energized by their work rather than depleted, and it allows for more connection. And what the feedback I'm getting from people who are running programs is that they are actually not only our clients staying longer, but so are their clinicians.
Absolutely. And I think another really important piece is oftentimes when we're speaking to our colleagues in the field, their reluctance is usually centered around Conscious Recovery being a replacement to or an alternative to the great work they're already doing. Can you speak to that a little bit?
For sure. And that's what we hear a lot. People will ask me, is it a replacement for 12 steps? Is it a replacement for CBT or DBT? No, it is an enhancement. It is something that is intended to allow the great work that treatment programs are already doing. It just adds another layer. If anything, it adds a deepening of some of those concepts that a lot of times CBT and DBT in particular are delivered as a framework or a thought or some tools. This is about an experience. So in my experience, people don't really learn or change only through their mental faculty. It's really about an experience. Conscious Recovery groups are created in a beautifully structured way to help a client actually have an experience and an inner shift that is much more or very different than just a thought or a new tool in their toolkit.
And so as a treatment provider, oftentimes there's a lot of barriers around integrating new curriculum into their program. So what does the actual integration look like when they become unauthorized program?
Well, we've made it very simple. They simply sign up, they receive books, workbooks, facilitators guides, and then they have access to the online portal. On that portal, each individual counselor or clinician will have a unique log on, and they can watch the training materials. And then even more important than that, they can go onto the portal 15 minutes before the group starts, watch a very short video where we give them tips and tools. So they'll have the facilitator's guide, they'll have the Very, very simple outline, and then they can watch that short video with tips and tools, and they'll be ready to walk into group feeling fully prepared rather than struggling and scrambling on what am I going to do today in group, run into their computer, printing out some things about shame from Brene Brown, running into the group with handouts. This is something that is very, very unique. I haven't really seen anything else like it.
Okay, terrific. Now, for somebody watching who doesn't know about conscious recovery, what is the conscious recovery method? What are the principles of conscious recovery?
The foundational principle is very, very simple. Underneath all addictive behavior is an essential self that is whole and perfect. So many of the support groups and so many of the modalities focused on what is broken rather than the wholeness in that person. So a huge part of conscious recovery is asking the question, what gets create when I am diagnosing and treating, which obviously has a place. And in addition to that, we're asking the question, what might get created if we were to look at our client as a whole and perfect being? And then also conscious recovery addresses the root causes of addiction rather than just treating symptoms and behaviors. I've seen people come back to treatment 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I became really curious about that. And in my experience, it was profoundly simple as well. And that is, as long as we continue to treat symptoms and behaviors, give them the tools they need and stabilize them, we're going to see them back at treatment if they haven't addressed the underlying root causes. We've identified the root causes as unresolved trauma, spiritual disconnection, and toxic shame. We also believe that healing is possible, that we don't treat addiction, that we can actually create a space for someone to have a very deep experience of their own healing.
I love that so much. And so with that in mind, what are some of the group topics? What can a clinician, a tech, or counselor expect to be facilitating in process group?
Authenticity, the power of forgiveness, the power of perspective, conflict. So we take on some topics that on the surface might not really seem like they're related to addiction because they're actually not. This is more about them having an inner shift or an inner experience. Life without their substance or without their addiction is really what we need to provide, because I've seen treatment where most of it is focused on their using, their drinking, and how we actually get rid of that and look at that as the problem. And we recognize that that's not really the problem. That was the solution. We take away the solution they've been using, even if it's not really serving them anymore. And what's left? What is left is a human being who is disconnected, who has trauma that hasn't been resolved, and is carrying a deep sense of shame about themselves. Conscious recovery comes in, offers these topics to help them actually have the inner experience of reconnecting with their wholeness.
I love that. And the feedback that we've had from all our partnered programs and their clients has been phenomenal because of those dynamic groups. And it leads me to our final question, which for me is, there are so many different arms of conscious recovery, but what is your ultimate vision for conscious recovery as a whole?
My ultimate vision is a big one, and that is that people on planet Earth re-experience their true nature and their wholeness. Conscious recovery can be a small part of that. I would love to see it in every treatment program in the world because it's a tool, it's a way of being, it's a system of care that will actually help someone heal the underlying root causes of their addiction and return to their whole self, their true nature.
Beautiful. Well, TJ, thank you so much for this, and we look forward to seeing conscious recovery continue to expand.
Thank you, Jeremy.